Have you ever wondered why cruise ships have so many different cabin categories with so many different prices? Have you ever been confused by it? And do you want to know how to decipher between them to find the right cabin for you? Hi everybody, my name's David and this is Cruise Control. And in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to decipher between all those different cabin categories so you can find the right cabin that's going to meet your needs and it's going to be right on budget. In today's market, there are loads of different types of cabin categories to choose from, and it can be very confusing, especially if you're new to this type of holiday. Cabins can range from single inside cabins right up to suites that are multi-story and can accommodate multiple families at one time. I suppose what I'm saying is if you are the type of person who just simply cruises in one type of category because you know that's the best one for you and it's all you've ever cruised in and you've not given any of the other cabin categories a try, well then this video might be up your street because it may give you that little bit of a nudge to try something that is either cheaper and still just as enjoyable, or it may be that you go and splash the cash on a more expensive cabin. However, what I want to get out of today is that when you look at all those cabins for sale, when you're booking your cruise, you're going to be able to understand why they're all priced so differently and why you don't really need to get sucked into that more expensive is better mantra. So stick around. Hopefully you're going to enjoy this video. But before you do, listen, if you like what you are seeing, please give me a thumbs up and please remember to subscribe. It costs you nothing and it means the world to me. Now back to our video. So the first thing you need to do when trying to figure out all those categories and what they mean is to break them down into 4 basic types. Now every ship, despite how many cabins they have and how many styles of cabins they have and what they call them, i.e. are they verandas or are they duplexes or are they what's some of the other crazy names that they have for cabins nowadays? Oh yeah, virtual balcony cabins or virtual outside cabins. No matter what they are, they're going to break down into 4 categories, and that, or 4 types. My apologies, 4 types. First type is inside, second type is outside, third type is balcony, and then you've got your suites. Everything, all those 100 types of categories will fall into those 4 types. And the first thing you need to do is decipher or work out which one of those 4 types is going to suit your budget and suit your needs for the cruise. Once you've done that, then working out the rest of the categories is easy as pie. One thing I want us to note quickly, which I kind of hinted on a little bit before, is each cruise line will have different names for their cabins. I use the word cabin because I grew up cruising and that's what the room in a ship is called. However, those of you who are from the other side of the pond like to call your cabins staterooms, and I think that's starting to creep into Western European cruises, and that's probably because our cruise lines are dominated by American owners. But yes, you have cabins, you have staterooms, they're all the same thing. And then you start getting some proprietary named cabins, like for example, you get veranda balcony cabins on Celebrity. Then you get on Royal Caribbean, you can get virtual balconies, i.e. it's an inside cabin with a big sort of computer screen or TV as a window, and it gives you a view of what it would look like outside. So yeah, there's a whole range of them, and you just need to be careful about getting sucked into the marketing, because like I said in the last segment, you need to understand which basic type, 4 of those types, does that cabin fall into, and then start measuring that against the price that they are wanting to charge you for that type of cabin. Okay, so we're familiar with the types. Inside, no windows. It's, you know, on the inside of the ship. They literally run down the center line of the ship. Outside cabins tend to be cabins that are within the hull structure rather than the superstructure of the ship, i.e. the balcony-laden superstructure. They will have a porthole or a window. Then you have your classic balcony cabin, which has doors that you can walk out onto a balcony from your cabin, and then you have suites. Suites tend to have balconies, rather large ones, and suites can vary in size from what we could say, mediocre size to huge things. They're a very big and globulous category. I'm not going to go into them too much today, but they are your 4 types. Now, how do cruise lines make money from those 4 types? Well, they break those 4 types down into further categories. So let's look at the inside cabin as a starter for 10. So how do cruise ships make money out of this cabin type? Well, they break them down from most expensive to cheapest, and that depends on their position. So cabins found midship or closer to general entertainment areas tend to be more expensive. So you'll find cabins forward and aft will be cheaper, or those that are further down or higher up than the general passenger entertainment areas, they tend to be cheaper as well. Now, in the olden days, and when I say olden days, I'm only going back about 10 to 15 years. In those days when cruise ships used to be a lot smaller, they used to feel the motion in the ocean a lot more, which meant that those cabins at the front and the back would feel that up and down or roll more so than cabins in the center of the ship. And so it was, if you suffered from seasickness, worth paying the extra for those midship cabins. However, nowadays, ships are absolutely huge and their stabilization technology is absolutely fantastic. So in my personal opinion, having to sort of think, I need to book that midship cabin because I'm going to feel loads of roll or loads of movement if I book a forward or aft cabin is less so. If you're going to feel something, then the weather is bad enough that everyone's going to feel something in some of those big ships. Another thing as well is, don't be worried about going lower down, because when you are lower down in the ship, when the ship does move like that side to side, if you're lower down, you're going to feel that far less than someone who's high up on one of those high decks. So, sometimes going low can be a benefit. And plus, don't listen to anybody who says, oh, steerage, lower down at the back of the ship, you're going to hear the engines, it's going to smell, and you're going to feel the vibrations of the props. Those days are well gone. And to be honest with you, I miss them. I used to love going to sleep, especially when I was at the back of the ship on lower cabins, listening to that hum of the engines and that slight vibration. It used to send me off to sleep. But nowadays, the only time you really tend to feel the propellers is when the ship's coming into dock or leaving dock, and those props are really, running at 110%. So really, honestly, you've got no worries about being at the back or the front, especially if you are on a very big ship. Now, yes, okay, if you have mobility issues, then think about maybe going a bit more midship, because you are going to have to walk an extra couple of meters, tens of meters, to get to the stairwells, to get down to those general population entertainment areas. But really, nowadays, I would go front or back, save myself some money paying for a midship. And I don't mind getting those extra steps in, because you're going to need them, because by the time you get downstairs, you're going to be drinking away, eating loads. So yeah, it's a great little health benefit to book front or aft, and you're going to save yourself a penny. Before we move on to the pros and cons of the 4 cabin types that I've been discussing, hopefully I've been able to explain to you how and why cruise lines break down those 4 types into hundreds of types of categories. And those categories are always going to be dependent on 1, the type, 2, its position, and 3, its amenities. Now, when we're looking at inside, outside, balcony cabins, the most important things to look at when we're looking at those types of categories is the placement, or where the cabin is, and its type. And then when we start looking at cabin types such as suites, the most important thing to think about then is the amenities, and I'll explain why that is in a little while. So, if you don't mind walking a couple of extra meters to get to the lifts, or if you don't mind a little tiny bit of extra movement on the ship when the weather is rough, then you can save yourself quite a lot of money by booking a forward or aft cabin. One thing to remember as well is a lot of cruise lines will sell you superior cabins, and I think I touched on this a little bit earlier. But so for example, let's say I think, well, do you know what, I'm going to plumb for an inside cabin, and then I see standard inside cabin and I see superior inside cabin. So what's so superior? Is it bigger? Is it more luxurious? Well, a lot of the times it's not. Now, on bigger cruise lines, they do have larger inside cabins, but on older cruise ships, you will probably find the only thing that makes it superior is it's either on a higher deck closer to the public areas, or it's midship, and that's the only difference. So don't think, oh, I'm gonna splash out on a superior cabin. It's not going to be any different to a regular standard cabin. All it's going to be is just a little bit closer to those public areas, and it's going to be midships. Let's start with the pros and cons of each of the 4 types. Number 1 is your inside cabin. Inside cabins are the cheapest category of cabin, and you can save loads of money by booking an inside cabin. I personally love them. Now, it's a bit of a strange thing because I've met people who have cruised quite a bit and they say, I would never ever book an inside cabin. Why would I ever stay in a room that has no windows? Well, to be honest with you, I have to agree with them to a certain extent. The only reason I love an inside cabin is because I grew up cruising inside cabins, which meant I just, they were part and parcel of being on a ship. You found inside cabins on a ship and it was perfectly normal. Now, I wouldn't go and book a plane ticket and choose a seat that didn't have a window next to me, or I wouldn't go and book a hotel room that didn't have a window. But when it comes to ships, it's perfectly natural, and I get some really good sleep in inside cabins because there is no natural light to wake you up early in the morning or keep you awake late at night. It's pretty much darkness. Now, on modern ships, the one thing that I really like about inside cabins on modern ships is because the aircon is that good, you really do have good access to fresh circulated air, which you might not have got on inside cabins on older ships. So the pros is that, you can get great aircon in them. You can get great sleep. They're super cheap. And some of the cons, well, yes, you lack that natural light. You do lack that view of the outside world. So if you are cruising, if you're going somewhere that's extremely scenic, somewhere you've never been before, and you like spending time in your cabin, well, then don't opt for an inside cabin. I'm very much a wake up, get straight out, and I'm not back in the cabin until I'm half cut and passing out on the bed. Then, that's me. I enjoy doing that, and I don't need to sit at my balcony or wake up and open the curtains and have a cup of coffee. I'm literally up and out, and so therefore inside cabins suit me. And if you're a similar type of person, then yeah, it's a great way to save lots of money, and I would certainly recommend you give it a go. The next category is the outside cabin. Outside cabins are generally cabins that are found in the hull structure of a ship rather than on or in the superstructure of a ship. They will afford you either a large window or a porthole depending on the design, size and age of the ship. And the best thing about outside cabins is they will afford you natural light and a nice view out over the ocean. One thing to remember about outside cabins is that they do have further subcategories which can fall into obstructed and unobstructed and porthole and window, like I've said. So if you book a cabin that says porthole, please be aware you are going to get a rather small round porthole window that you find on ships. or it will say window and you'll get either a large bay window or something larger than the porthole. Now, where it becomes really important to do your homework is if you're booking an outside cabin and it is obstructed, because obstructed outside cabins could have anything in front of it. It could have, for example, the promenade and some metalwork. It could have a lifeboat. It could have equipment. And that means, yes, there's natural light, but it's shaded natural light if it is fully or partially obstructed. Personally, I've never seen the point of booking an outside cabin that is obstructed. I would sooner just go and get an inside cabin because, you know, all you'll be looking out of is, a piece of plastic or a bit of metal or a winch or a davit or something like that. So yeah, for me, then they're not the best cabin category to choose from. Some people love them, some people don't. If you do like them, please let me know. The only time I ever really, not say book, but the only time I ever sail in an outside cabin is when I have grabbed a cheeky freebie. But like I say, if you do like a view, and I suppose maybe if you are going on a cold weather cruise, where you want a view, but you don't want to feel like you've wasted your money because you can't open your balcony doors, then an outside cabin is right up your street. But please, do your homework, find out where that cabin is on the ship and whether or not it is obstructed, and if it is obstructed, what is it obstructed by? Simple Google search will help, and you can go on to websites, Facebook, YouTube. There's loads of forums where you can put in the cabin number, and people who have either cruised in that cabin before or know that cabin can give you a bit of feedback on what the obstruction is and how bad that obstruction is. The next cabin category is the balcony cabin. Balcony cabins never used to be the most numerous or popular cabin type on cruise ships. The only reason that they are so numerous nowadays and so popular is because cruise ships have put on huge, massive superstructures above the hull structure. So you could have, 9 to 15 decks above the hull just full of balconies, which means more people can have access to the natural light and the fresh sea air and have beautiful views and vistas across the ocean. And that's great. And it also means that the price of balcony cabins has crashed in the last 10 to 15 years. So what are the pros of a balcony cabin? Well, the very fact that you have your own personal outside space. So if you're the type of person who likes waking up in the morning in the Caribbean, opening those curtains, opening your cabin door, your balcony door, don't open your cabin door unless you are fully dressed. Opening your balcony door, please remember to wear your dressing gown or be appropriately dressed. There is CCTV. Do not believe or do not come under the assumption that you are completely isolated and private on your balcony. But if you do like opening that door, walking out into the warm air, hearing the sea washing past you, having that cup of tea, that little croissant or whatever you ordered for breakfast, that's great. Absolutely brilliant. Plumb for that. And if you're going somewhere very scenic, you're doing the fjords, or you're going to or Iceland or Norway or somewhere, that you need to, you want to make sure you've got great views, private, your own view of the vistas and outside areas, then that's great. Plumb for a balcony. That's the pros. The cons can be a little bit expensive, and also the higher you go on a balcony, because you're on the outside of the ship. Now remember, inside cabins are normally following the center line of the ship. So if the ship is rolling, if you're in a balcony on the outside of the ship, you're going to feel that more than on an inside cabin. And the higher you go, when that ship does roll, you're going to feel that more than cabins lower down. So if you're looking for a balcony cabin and you don't like that feeling of moving side to side or back and forth, then maybe try and get a cabin lower down. Last but not least is the suite type. Now, the position of a suite, where they are, is all the less important when compared to the amenities. So if you're looking to pay for a suite, don't really spend any time wondering where your cabin is. Suites will be found at the front, at the back, at the top, sometimes lower down. They tend to be at the very, very top of ships. They tend to be the penthouse sort of experience. So, you know, where the cabin is or where the suite is not important. What is important is the amenities. What are you going to get for that thousands and thousands of dollars or pounds or euros a night cabin? And that is, are you going to get a butler service? Are you going to get a private dining room? Are you going to get, you know, suite access to a private lounge? Are you going to get free access to a mini bar? Are they going to throw in drinks packages? Are they going to throw in loads of different extras? Are you going to have free access to the spa? So if you're going to look for a suite experience, do your homework on what are those sort of amenities that you want. Do you want, you know, do you want something that's going to give you spa access? Do you want something that gives you a private dining room? Do you want somewhere that, you know, not when I say private, what I mean is an exclusive dining room just for suite guests. So try and think about what it is that you want out of the suite, and then choose your cruise line. Now, I've recently sailed on MSC Yacht Club, and Yacht Club provided us with a butler, and it provided us with free access to the mini bar. It provided us with a dining room just for Yacht Club guests with a private lounge, free spa access. So if you want to get a taste of what having a suite would look like. Now, just remember as well, as suites come from very, very small to very, very large. We stayed in an inside cabin in Yacht Club, and that was still classed as a suite. Now, in Yacht Club, you can get massive suites, royal suites, huge, huge expansive areas, but we still stayed in what was classed as a suite. So it's more around the amenities when looking at a suite. Well, that's in my opinion. So have a look at that video. That's about Yacht Club. You can catch that on one of my videos, and that will give you a taster of what a suite experience could offer you. Now, let's just wrap that all up. I hope you found this video entertaining. Please give me a like, a thumbs up. It's really, really important. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. You know, it's what keeps me going. It's what keeps me making these videos. I've really enjoyed spending some time with you today. Please seize the day. Keep well, guys. Bye-bye.